All right, welcome everybody. We'll go ahead and get started. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. My name is Nikita and I'm the product manager at Tax 990. I've been working with Tax 990 just over 2 years, and it's been so enjoyable to help teach the nonprofit community about the importance of filing their 990 series returns and being able to help them through that process. Today, we're going to review the importance of filing your annual 990 returns, and we'll take a look at some specific filing requirements and guidelines. If you have questions along the way, you can go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll address those questions at the end of the webinar. We do want to mention we are not tax advisors. We will not be providing specific tax advice. We will purely be discussing IRS e-filing requirements and the process of e-filing. So for specific tax questions, please contact your tax advisor. If you have specific questions about your Tax 990 account, please send us an email directly so we can provide better assistance and take a look at your account. This presentation will be recorded, and we will send an email to everybody afterwards with a full recording. During today's webinar, we'll be discussing the IRS e-filing requirements, filing deadlines, choosing a 990 form, required form information, and information on filing with Tax 990. The IRS mandated e-filing for the 990 series returns on July 1st of 2019. This means you're no longer able to paper file a return if you have to, you have to use an IRS authorized e-file provider. We'll talk more about that here in a little bit. If the organization paper files a return, the IRS will send it back and request the form be e-filed. This will cause the return to be submitted late, and you could risk accruing penalties. The IRS is moving towards e-filing for most forms, whether tax exempt or not. E-filing reduces the amount of filing errors, makes filing and IRS processing more efficient, and ensures that the IRS guidelines are met. The form you file on an annual basis depends on your organization's financial activity during the tax year and your exempt status. If your financial situation changes, your form type may also change from one year to the next. An organization is required to file a 990 series return to provide the IRS and public with information about the organization's programs, activities, relationships, transactions, and governance, as well as information on revenue, expenses, and assets. Basically, it's used to ensure the organization is following its mission, exempt purpose, and using funds appropriately. An organization is required to file a 990 series return on an annual basis to maintain its tax exempt status. Failure to file could result in penalties by the IRS or revocation of the exempt status. If the organization fails to file for 3 consecutive years, the IRS will automatically revoke their exempt status. If the organization files late, they'll risk penalties of $20 per day or $105 per day for larger organizations. The penalty amount could reach a maximum of $10,500 or 5% of the organization's annual gross receipts. The IRS will typically contact the organization with a mailed letter to inform them of penalties accrued and fees due. You will need to follow the steps in the IRS letter to resolve these penalties. So now that we've reviewed the annual filing requirements, let's take a look at the filing deadlines. As mentioned, an organization is required to file a return on an annual basis. The deadline to file depends on the organization's tax period. Not all organizations follow the same tax period. An organization's tax year can be any 12-month time frame. The deadline to file a return is the 15th day of the 5th month following the end of the organization's tax year. The most common tax periods are either January through December or July through June. So for example, if the organization has a January through December tax year, that means their tax year begins on January 1st and ends on December 31st every year. The deadline for this tax period would be May 15th because the 5th month after the tax period ends on December 31st would be May, and the deadline's the 15th of the month. However, if the 15th of the month falls on a weekend or federal holiday, the deadline is moved to the next business day. The IRS will determine the organization's tax year, and the information will be indicated on the IRS determination letter. The organization received the determination letter upon evolution of exempt status. Your organization will follow this tax year throughout the life of the organization, and the deadline will remain the same each year. If you're unsure of your organization's tax year, you should reference the determination letter or contact the IRS before filing a return. Using an incorrect tax period could result in a rejected return or penalties if you miss your actual deadline because you assume the deadline is a different month. Organizations that operate on a fiscal tax year need to be careful when choosing the correct tax year to file. When paper filing was an approved process, this was not such an issue because the information could just be written into the field. Now with the e-filing mandate, the IRS will not accept a tax year return that's not accurately reported on the correct tax year form. The basic pieces to remember is you choose the tax year form that the tax year begins in. If you're filing for a tax year that begins in 2021 and ends in 2022, you would choose to complete a 21 tax year form. When you're filing for a tax year that begins in 2022 and ends in 2023, you'll complete a 2022 tax year form. Most e-file providers will not provide the option to complete a 2021 return on any form other than a 2021 form, or as time moves on, a 2022 through 2023 year form on anything other than a 2022 return. Often an organization will indicate on their return that's an initial return because it's the first one filed for that tax year. We just want to clarify this process. The initial or final return will only be used once throughout the life of the organization. The initial return means it is the very first form the organization has ever filed. This would be selected if the organization is new. The final return would be selected if the organization is terminating and will not be conducting business past the tax year end date reported on the return. If it's not your initial or final return, you do not have to make a selection for either. So as I've mentioned a few times, the return to file is based on the organization's financial status. There are 4 different form options an organization can choose from. We're going to take a look briefly at the filing requirements for each of these forms. The 990N is also referred to as the e-Postcard. It is the smallest form and can be filed by organizations with gross receipts that are less than $50,000 at the end of the tax year. Because of the small amount of information provided on a 990N, only a form summary is available upon completion of the return. The 990N is the only one of the 990 series returns that does not qualify for an extension. When choosing which form to file, you can always file up, but you cannot file down. Meaning, if your gross receipts meet the requirements to complete a 990N, you can still choose to file a 990EZ or a 990 long form instead. However, if your organization meets the requirements of a 990EZ, you cannot choose to file a 990N instead. The 990EZ is the short form return for an organization exempt from income tax. A 990EZ can be filed if the organization's gross receipts were less than $200,000 and total assets at the end of the year were less than $500,000. This form is considered the short form because there are only 6 parts. You'll provide information about revenue and expenses, program service accomplishments, officers, and organization activities. The 990EZ supports several schedules that the IRS requires based on the information you provide on the return. And a schedule is just additional information that may be required based on an answer you provide on the 990 series form itself, just to provide further insight to that specific category. The 990 is the long form return for an organization exempt from income tax. The 990 can be filed if the organization has either gross receipts greater than or equal to $200,000 or total assets greater than or equal to $500,000 at the end of the tax year. The 990 form will ask for more detailed information specific to categories such as mission, accomplishments, revenue and expenses, governance, compensation of officers, and activities. The 990 form supports several more schedules than the 990EZ. Like with the 990EZ, the IRS required schedules will be based on the information you provide on the return itself. The 990PF is the return of private foundations used to figure the tax based on investment income and to report charitable distributions and activities. If your organization is considered a private foundation within the IRS database, you will be required to complete the 990PF form. The IRS will not accept an alternate 990 series return regardless of your financial activity throughout the tax year. Your organization determination letter will clearly state if you are considered a private foundation. Now let me repeat that. If your determination letter states you're a private foundation, you cannot file any other form regardless of your financial status. Private foundations are required to file the 990PF no matter what. Section 4947A1, non-exempt charitable trusts treated as private foundations also complete the 990PF return. The 990PF only supports Schedule B for reporting contribution information and is one of the only forms that may have tax due related to excise tax based on investment income. If your organization owes the IRS, you can send a check or money order or use your EFTPS account to make those payments. An exempt organization can use Form 8868 to request an automatic 6-month extension of time to file. To qualify for the extension form, you must complete and transmit the 8868 on or before your original 990 series deadline. The 8868 is applicable towards the 990, the 990EZ, the 990PF, and the 990T. But as mentioned earlier, you cannot apply for an extension on the 990N form. You can only file one extension form per tax year. If you filed an extension on your original deadline and your extension deadline has approached, you have to file your 990 series form. You cannot file another extension form. Now, I will note here that the IRS is not currently accepting the 8868 extension form. So if you have a deadline coming up in either February or March, you would not be able to apply for that extension. As I said, the IRS has closed processing of that form in the electronic format, and they expect to reopen that on March 17th. They are accepting paper filed extension forms, but that is the only paper filed form that they're accepting right now. So if you need to file an extension for a February or March deadline, you'll want to get that paper mailed as soon as possible. There's several important pieces of information you'll need before filing. You'll want to confirm your organization's 9-digit EIN, the organization's address, the tax year beginning and ending date, and the tax exempt status. The information you provide on your return must match the information on the IRS database. All of the information can be found on your organization's IRS determination letter or on previous tax returns. If you do not have that documentation, you may need to contact the IRS before filing. Reporting incorrect information may result in a rejected return, which is why it's incredibly important to verify these details prior to transmitting your return. The 990 series forms will also want to know specific information regarding the organization's gross receipts, total assets, contributor information, and principal officer information. Gross receipts are the total amounts the organization received from all sources during its annual accounting period without subtracting any costs or expenses. Total assets are the assets owned by the entity that has an economic value whose benefits can be derived from in the future. The form type you choose to file each year is based on the gross receipts and total assets. If you have contributions from a single contributor that meets or exceeds $5,000, you'll have to report each contributor, including their name, address, contribution type, and amount. If you have multiple contributors who contributed $5,000 or more, you'll need to report this information for each contributor. You'll need to provide information on several of your members. However, the principal officer information will be cross-referenced with the IRS database, so you'll want to confirm the accuracy of the information regarding principal officer prior to filing. An organization filing a 990, a 990EZ, or a 990PF are asked to report their program service activities and accomplishments and their program service revenue. This information is going to be taken into consideration when applying for grants, approaching donors, and increasing your fundraising. The purpose of providing this information is to explain to others how you're operating in your organization and utilizing funding to adhere to the mission. It's important to paint a picture of the activities hosted to encourage financial gain. The information organizations provide in this section also helps the IRS determine if their activities are appropriate for their exempt status, and it allows conveying to the public what was accomplished throughout the year. Ultimately, the information reported in this section can have a big impact on your organization, so you must be completing it properly. It's important to provide significant, thorough, and accurate information. Not only will the IRS review the return to confirm the accuracy and ensure you're maintaining your reason for exemption, but donors and contributors will review the information to confirm donations are being used towards exempt purposes, and grant applications will review the use of your funds and the narrative to ensure the grants will be used to the highest value. If you do not provide information accordingly, it may have a future impact on your fundraising objectives or the organization's success. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about the process of e-filing with Tax 990 and the streamlined and advanced technology features that Tax 990 offers. Since the IRS has mandated e-filing, your organization must use an e-file provider to complete and transmit your returns. The IRS mandates that all 990 forms be filed electronically. Choosing an IRS authorized provider is crucial. However, you should also keep in mind that the features and tools they offer are also important to making the right choice for your organization. Just like choosing a technology-driven accounting software, choosing an e-file provider that meets your needs will streamline your reporting. Tax 990 is an IRS authorized e-file provider with over a decade of experience in e-filing tax forms. Collectively, Tax 990 and its sister products offer the option to e-file over 70 different tax forms, including business tax forms such as 1099 and W-2s and 941 forms, as well as ACA forms such as the 1094 and 1095s. For information on our other solutions, please reach out to our team and we can guide you in the right direction. Tax 990 is a SOC 2 certified application. We go through vigorous annual audits and testing to ensure your data security. Once you complete a return, you can share it with members of your organization for approval. The return can be shared electronically, meaning you send the organization member an email to access the document online, and they can review it, comment on it, and approve it. Or you can share manually, meaning you would print a copy to share with the organization members. The individuals that you share the return with cannot make edits directly on the form. They can provide comments and suggestions or changes that you'll receive as a message in your Tax 990 account. Tax 990 provides the option to file returns for the current and 2 prior tax years. If you're behind on your filing, you can catch up before your exempt status is revoked. If your financial status changes from year to year, you want to find a provider that offers all the 990 series forms to make it a streamlined process for keeping documents in one place. This would include a provider that supports filing for all required 990 returns, schedules, and California 199 form if needed, and a service to help you handle amendments and corrections. Tax 990, like I said, currently supports filing for 2021, 2022, and 2023. We do support all of the 990 series forms, so if you file typically a 990 in and you had a wealth of income this year and have to jump up to the 990 EZ, you can file any of those forms within the same Tax 990 account. We do offer the option to amend a return, even if it wasn't filed with Tax 990. Amending a return can be done if you notice an error on a previously submitted form. You can make changes and file that as an amendment. Whether you assist in the e-filing process for multiple organizations or you are only filing for one organization, you can manage all your details from the same Tax 990 account. Your organization information is saved in the account, so when it comes time to file each year, you can select which organization you're filing for, and the name, EIN, address, and principal officer information will auto-generate. When filing from year to year, a lot of your information remains the same. So with Tax 990, we provide the ability to transfer information directly from a prior year return. When filing consecutive years, the organization information, public charity status, books are in the care of details, Schedule B, contributor names and addresses, list of officers, and prior year revenue and expenses can all be transferred to the current year return. This is an optional feature, and information can be changed once the transfer is made, which leaves it completely customizable to you. Additionally, all of your previous filing records are saved in your Tax 990 account, so you can easily navigate returns filed in the past. Tax 990 offers 2 different filing formats. You can choose from our form-based filing option, which is similar structure to the form PDF, and you complete the information line by line. Or you can choose our interview-based filing format, which is similar to a question and answer platform, and the return is filled out based on your responses to those questions. With either format, you'll be able to utilize the same great features, including the PDF draft, the internal audit, and the option to share the return. As I mentioned, if you notice a reporting mistake on your accepted 990 series return, with Tax 990, you can amend a previously accepted return for the current and 2 prior tax years. If you didn't file the original with Tax 990, you can still file an amendment with us. We also understand that it's not always easy to know what additional information is required on a return. So when you complete your return with Tax 990, we help determine the schedules that are required based on the information provided on the form. The schedule required will automatically generate for you to complete. Additionally, only the necessary parts of the schedule will appear, so you're not completing information that's not required. For example, if you make the selection on the 990 form that your organization is a 501c3, page 1 of Schedule A will generate automatically. Once you choose your reason for public charity status on page 1 of Schedule A, the necessary additional parts of Schedule A will be enabled. So you're only filing what's absolutely required for your organization. We also understand that in most cases, it's preferred to review a draft copy of the return prior to filing or while working through the process. So you'll have access to a draft PDF while you're working on the return. And when you finalize and transmit your return, you'll have access to a professional copy for your records. The professional copy will remain in your account so you can print or download it at any time. This is beneficial for an organization that may need a record of their return later for grants and funding. You'll be able to email a copy from your account when necessary. It's important for an organization to know if your return was accepted. So once the IRS provides a status update, you'll receive an email with the acceptance notice. You can email that acceptance notice to your client if necessary. The acceptance letter will remain in the account, and you can access and download a copy of your acceptance letter at any time. To provide confirmation that the return was successfully filed and accepted by the IRS. In the case that the return is rejected by the IRS, Tax 990 provides the reason for the IRS rejection and allows you to resolve and retransmit the return at no additional cost. For example, if the IRS rejected the return because the tax year provided does not match what the IRS has in their database, you'll be able to edit the information on the return and retransmit it. An organization highly depends on an accepted return, so if a return is rejected and there's no notice of the rejection, the organization can risk penalty or losing their exempt status. Providing rejection information and the ability to retransmit a return will help the organization remain compliant. Tax 990 will always perform an internal audit after you've completed the return. This verifies that the requirements from the IRS form instructions have been met. The audit helps verify that your calculations are accurate and necessary schedules are generated. The form will auto-calculate or will provide auto calculations, which helps remove the guesswork from filing by calculating several areas of the return. For example, when you input all of your different categories of revenue, the total revenue will be calculated accordingly. We also will auto-save your information, so filing the 990 return can be a lengthy process. So when you file your return with Tax 990, you can come and go as you please, and the information you enter is saved automatically. And since we offer a cloud-based program, you can access your account from anywhere at any time and pick up right where you left off. Filing with Tax 990 can be a very quick 6-step process. You'll start by adding your organization to the account. You'll choose the form that you need to file. You'll add your information to the form and then do the internal audit. Once your audit is complete and your errors are resolved, you'll have the opportunity to share the return as mentioned, and then you can transmit it to the IRS. We do offer customer support that's dedicated and personalized, and we are available Monday through Friday. You won't need to be on hold for several hours or be put on a callback list. When you need assistance with your return, you can give us a call or you can reach out via chat or email. We're here to help along the way, and during heavy deadline season, there may be a delayed time, but we will always give you a call back or respond to your email. If you have a deadline coming up, even if it's a couple of months away, it's always beneficial to get started as soon as possible so that you can experience the best support and process available to you. We have some really great resources available outside of our support team. We also have an extensive knowledge base on our website that allows you to type in a phrase or a word or a whole question, and we will provide content related to that. We have a YouTube channel with a ton of helpful how-to videos, step-by-step instructions, and informational content. And we have a blog that you can look at and read all kinds of different news going on in the nonprofit sector or with the IRS or basic form information. So check out all of those links. They're available at tax990.com as well in our support page. And now we'll go ahead and take a few minutes for a Q&A. Like I said, if you have questions, go ahead and post them there in the chat and we will address those live. I'll give you guys just a couple minutes to type your questions. Okay, let's see. Just one quick question about what tax year is supported. Again, Tax 990 supports the current and 2 prior tax years. So we have 2021, 2022, and 2023 forms for all of our form options available right now. Kamara, we do not have any specific handouts, but as I mentioned, I will email a copy of this webinar to everybody after the webinar closes. Sandra, we do have filing fees associated with our forms because the IRS mandated e-filing. The organizations are required to find an e-file provider. E-file providers have to create and host technology to provide that e-file option to you, and that technology obviously costs money, so there aren't any filer or e-file providers out there that aren't going to have a fee associated with their forms. You can take a look at our per form pricing at tax990.com/pricing. We do not have any hidden fees or subscriptions. You only pay for the form that you file when you file it. Again, go ahead and take a look at our pricing page at tax990.com/pricing to review our per form pricing. Doris is wondering about the 990T. The 990T is for reporting unrelated business income. It is not required by all organizations. It's only required if you are reporting unrelated business income greater than $1,000 on your 990 form. Then you can complete the 990T. We do have different videos, and I've done a webinar on the 990T as well that you can review on our YouTube channel for more information. Alan is wondering about the group number, and I'm assuming he means the group exemption number. If you don't know your group exemption number, you're going to want to contact the parent company or the parent organization of that group to determine what the GEN is, or reference your determination letter. You can also call the IRS. Tax 990 would not have record of your GEN if if you have not filed with us in the past and used that number. We do offer the CA 199 form for California nonprofits on our website, yes. Maria, if you have to file years prior to 2021, I would suggest contacting the IRS to determine how to do that. I don't know of any company right now that offers anything prior to 2021, but the IRS may have some further guidance on how you could file those. Phil, if your organization is a private foundation and you want to change to a tax-exempt charitable foundation, you would have to reapply for exempt status and indicate change of exempt status, and you'd have to file that with the IRS. I believe it's a 1023 form, but you may want to contact the IRS for confirmation on that process prior to making any change, but I'm pretty sure you have to do the 1023 and change that status. Patricia, there is not an option to file with the IRS directly. No, you do have to use an e-file provider. Alan, our support team is available, like I said, Monday through Friday. We're here 8:30 to 5:30 Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. And I can go back to that page. You can email us at support@tax990.com, or you can give us a call. We also have our live chat available if you want to go ahead and write those down real quick. Like I said, you could just reach out to us. Paulette, if you've received notification that your 990N has been accepted by the IRS, then you are correct. No further action is required. That means the IRS has received your return, they approve of what's on it, and you don't have to take further action until it's time to file your annual return for the following year. Lawrence, if you filed the original form with Tax 990, you can file an amended return. When you log into your account, if the form has been accepted, you can just click amend the return. If you did not file the original return with Tax 990, then you would want to choose our form-based filing option, and you can check the box in the header of the form to indicate it's an amended return. Alan, yes, you can file a 2022 return late through Tax 990. Tax 990 allows you to file the return regardless of the time frame. If you're filing early, you can do that. If you've missed your deadline and you're filing late, you can do that as well. We do not prohibit the time frame in which you file. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. The questions have pretty much stopped. Like I said, if anything does come to mind and you have any questions, you can reach out to our support team. I still have those contact information on the screen for you. For information on our pricing, you can go to tax990.com/pricing to review the per form cost. Otherwise, please reach out to us while you're working on the form if you get stuck or have questions, and I will get this recording sent out to your email here shortly. Thanks again for attending. You guys have a great rest of your day.